Controversy erupts over Stephanopoulos' tell-all. Will readers soon be asking, where's the beef? Tonight on Drudge.
He's the mod muckraker, the internet informer, citizen journalist, and everyone's dying to know what he'll say next. You know his name? Now here he is, Drudge.
Matt Drudge, Fox News. Thanks for joining Weekend Edition Holiday Weekend, and appreciate your viewership. Stephanopoulos has turned it in. I have learned the much delayed, the much hyped political memoir from former Clinton advisor George Stephanopoulos, working title All Too Human, has finally been delivered to publishers. The War Room star promised, however, to offer up candid information, insider information, but controversy has erupted. Little Brown, the book's publisher, gave Stephanopoulos $2.7 million up front to write the book, which has come in about 400 pages. But one publishing source is quietly suggesting that Stephanopoulos has not included, quote, enough juice to create maximum impact. And there is new concern that the book may be overshadowed by Monica Lewinsky's tell-all, both coming out in the new year. We'll watch that one. And joining me here at the desk, Karen Feld, Washington Insider. Thanks for joining here on Drudge, and happy Thanksgiving weekend.
Same to you.
Be glad you're not in the book publishing business. It's a lot of money.
There's a lot of money going out from publishers. We'll see what comes in and how many returns there are.
Well, it's a safe bet with Lewinsky. She only got $300,000, and I guess Andrew Morton, who's writing the book, got $300,000. That's pretty safe. She's going to sell, I have a feeling. I just have a hunch people want to hear her sad story. I've been told a lot of the information is going to be what happened once the scandal broke forward.
That's probably true. And don't forget, I wonder how much of her mother's original manuscript that Andrew Morton is rewriting.
Another Gen Xer in trouble, and they really have opened the floodgates on her, at least here in the city. Chelsea Clinton is now new media meat. They're covering her. She was the front page of the New York Post this week. Check this out. There she was. She had been off limits. It
was, everybody kind of, dealt with Chelsea with kid gloves, because don't forget, she didn't choose to be the first daughter. I mean, it was her father, her parents that ran, and her father that got into this. But then I think what happened is some people felt that once Chelsea became part of the White House publicity machine, that it was fair game. I still don't really think so. Here she is, a kid. I mean, what kid hasn't had a broken romance, her first college romance? She breaks up with her boyfriend. Leave her alone, and I think she's...
But Karen, the odd twist is here that the National Enquirer was really the first one to get into this. The National Enquirer is vetted by Williams and Connolly, it's my understanding, which of course is David Kendall. So what you have is you have the president's lawyer's law firm doing stories, or at least putting non-libel stamps on stories about the daughter. It's kind of getting weird.
Well, it's not saying that it's not true. This is a question of taste.
Taste.
I think it's taste more than it is a liability issue. And then, of course, the New York Post picked it up 2 days in a row, front page. And it's, I mean, they're acting like a tabloid.
The tabloid, the National Enquirer, Steve Coz, the editor, here's his quote, his rationale on why Chelsea is now open. At some point, you stop being a kid. Pretty interesting stuff. Now, you were on this show about a month ago, and you broke the news here that the First Lady Hillary Clinton was going to be appearing on the cover of Vogue, something Jackie O never even...
Oh, that's right. And Leibowitz photo shoot.
The photos are fabulous. I think it's Weight Watchers by Paint Shop Pro, but that's neither here nor there. Is she running for something? This is a solo job. There's no man in any of the shots. What's the deal, Karen Feld?
She would like to run. I mean, I don't think that that's been a secret. She would like to run after they leave the White House. The problem is she doesn't have a base. Don't forget, they don't have a home. So does she go back and establish residency in Illinois, where she's originally from, and run? Does she run in New York City? Either one is possible. I think she'd like to run for the Senate. In the meantime, there's buzz that she could go take a job heading up something like UNICEF. Or a big university, and either one would give her a good base.
She looks like she's poised for action. I mean,
she's ready to go, and she's come out very well in this whole scandal. She's at her best.
There is no doubt about it. She is the one who has emerged. There are still some sloppy seconds on when she learned about the scandal. We'll get into this later in the show. Now, Linda Tripp also has a new image.
Linda Tripp is going to be on Larry King soon, the next week or so, and we're going to see a very thin Linda Tripp. She's been sneaking in and out of Weight Watchers after hours, I understand, out in Columbia, Maryland, where she lives. And she's lost about 50 pounds.
More power to her, and she's the one I can't wait personally to hear from. There are a lot of question marks here.
I think she's going to need more than the weight loss to help her image.
Well, it's going to be a hell of an interview, whoever gets it. I'm not sure that Larry King is sealed up. However, it's...
I think that one she can control, and she knows it'll be a softball.
Thanks for that. Karen Feld, thanks for joining us here at the desk. Up next, Ann Coulter will sort out this impeachment process. It looks like it's going to be quite a close vote on the floor. And Larry Klayman, who is the, quote, People's Independent Counsel, picking up where Starr has left off. Thanks for joining us here on Drudge. Yes, Ann Coulter is joining me now on Drudge. Let's get right into it. I can barely keep my tongue. The impeachment. What are the Republicans doing with this? Are they following the Constitution from what you can tell at this point? It seems to me there's a lot of confusion. What's your prediction here? What's going to happen with this?
Well, there isn't so much confusion as there is abject stupidity, and that's why they're known as the stupid party. Some of them are performing admirably, but apparently there are 10, 20, perhaps up to 50 who, as usual, are going to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
Is there a remedy if Congress doesn't do anything? You've written a book, High Crimes and Misdemeanors. It was on the New York Times bestsellers list. I've got it under my bed. That's how much I enjoy this book, because what's in this book is a lot of historic context to this process. For instance, you have a great scenario in there where the founders didn't even want a single president.
That's right.
Tell.
They were considering having a panel of presidents. They had just fought a war to throw off a king. The last thing they wanted to do was create some sort of embryonic monarchy. So there was some dispute about whether they'd have one man in charge of the executive branch at all. They were considering having a panel of presidents. And the reason that idea was rejected was not to make the president more powerful or above the law or the sort of sultan we now have, but to make the president more accountable. And that was a point that was made quite a big deal of when Hillary Rodham and Bernard Nussbaum were writing up the Rodino report, because they couldn't really catch President Nixon on his own misconduct. So it had to be holding the president responsible for the misconduct of others, which is true. That was a purpose of impeachment. I think the Rodino report goes a little bit far in that. You know, there's accountability and accountability. If you have a couple of freelancing bad actors working for you, when the framers were giving these quotes about how the president would be responsible for any misconduct on his watch, and that's the reason we have one president, so that there would be no finger pointing, as the Rodino report put it. That, you know, George Washington had 24 people working for him, 24 subordinates. Maybe you could take responsibility for. Now there are thousands.
Yeah, it's what you can't be responsible for what someone's doing over in the East Wing without your knowledge.
But that does not describe any of the misconduct I include in my book.
Okay.
That would include Espy and Cisneros, perhaps. It does not include Babbitt. It does not include Craig Livingstone. Those are clear examples of when the president.
By the way, you know, Craig Livingstone called Politically Incorrect, it's my knowledge. He wants to be a guest. That would be a hell of a show. Ask a few pointed questions. He's the FBI files gentleman. Ann Coulter, we're getting to the Nixon level. The House of Representatives, back when I was 8 years old, they voted out some impeachment marks. We're about there. In the next couple of weeks, the House of Representatives may vote them out. It would go to the floor, but just that one act of voting them out is the Nixon level, is it not?
Yes. And I think we can assume that President Clinton does not love his country or have the sense of duty, honor, or shame that would cause him to resign. Nothing
well,
would cause him
to be
resign.
fair, there also is not the media momentum there was back in 74.
I disagree with that. I think the media has performed absolutely brilliantly. The independent
You think Diane Sawyer's interview with Starr was performing brilliantly?
Well, apart from that, Drudge. No, that was totally embarrassing. No, she took the whole approach, incidentally, that that it could only be because of Starr's religious upbringing that he could complain about what the president was doing with Monica Lewinsky.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think a lot of people might think that was somewhat shameful behavior, Diane.
Listen to this. President Clinton on Friday said he didn't commit perjury in writtens, encourage others to do so, or otherwise obstruct justice. The president pleaded forgetfulness nearly 17 times in the 24-page answer on Friday, but he did remember Drudge. Hyde's question number 48. Do you admit or deny that on January 18th, 1998, at about 6:11 a.m., you've learned the existence of tapes of conversations between Monica Lewinsky and Linda Tripp recorded by Linda Tripp? Clinton. I didn't know on January 18th, 1998, that tapes existed of conversations between Lewinsky Tripp recorded by Tripp. At some point on Sunday, January 18th, I knew about the Drudge report. I understand that while the report talked about tapes of phone conversations, it did not identify Lewinsky by name or did not mention Tripp. The report did not state who the parties to the conversations were or who taped the conversation. Now, Ann Coulter, an audience, that's a far cry from what Mike McCurry, the White House press secretary, was saying at the time. Take a look.
Someone here has put out the word that staffers should not be allowed to log on to the Drudge report. Is that true?
I don't discuss that subject.
What?
That
Whether you
subject.
put out a word that can't log on?
I think calling it a report is too generous.
Well, whatever you want to call it is fine with me, but have you forbidden people to actually...
No. People, it's a free country, and people can do what they want to on the internet.
Of course, the press secretary was not trying to deflect there. He wouldn't do that. He just didn't know I was secretly briefing the President of the United States through this fabulous computer, the internet.
So jealous.
Well, what can you say? You know, they slimed and rhymed and tried to get me out of town while I still had my life, but freedom of the press is live and well. Stay with me, Ann Coulter. Matt Drudge with you on Fox News. And again, stay tuned. Larry Klayman has just filed a new lawsuit. We'll get into that with him and a few other exclusives here on Drudge. Thanks for joining us back here at Drudge. I'm with Ann Coulter. The New York Times on Sunday, Maureen Dowd, she's back at it. She's saying the Republicans would, at least quoting some White House insiders, is just poison if they're going to impeach Bill Clinton over this. Get out the Kool-Aid, she calls it Paula Jonestown. Your take, Ann?
Apart from Maureen Dowd, I was saying before, I think the media is doing a fabulous job. The independent counsel has done a fabulous job. The witnesses, Linda Tripp keeps tapes, Monica keeps the dress, Paula Jones was incredibly dignified. Everything has gone absolutely beautifully like a Swiss clock, but now the baton is passed to congressional Republicans, and they're about to blow it. And no, there is no constitutional recourse except to demand a roll call vote and to defeat any Republican who votes against impeachment in the next election. And I pledge to give the legal maximum to the opponent of any Republican who votes against impeachment. They have the President of the United States on videotape committing felonies. If that's not enough for Chris Shays, John Porter, and Peter King, I don't know what they're waiting for.
The question I had, did the framers, your book, High Crimes and Misdemeanors, the background on the history of impeachment, did the framers allow for any kind of action if Congress does fail in its duty? What can a citizen do?
Vote against any Republican or Democrat who votes against impeachment. I do argue in my book that I think a sitting president is subject to criminal indictment. I mean, I think as a prosecutor, I'd want a rather high threshold for a criminal indictment, but certainly every other civil officer is subject to criminal indictment and prosecution, the same ones who are subject to impeachment. Otherwise, you'd have thousands of civil servants out there who could commit rape, murder, and they couldn't be indicted until being impeached.
And these stories are never over until, sort of like the old FBI shows, till the epilogue. Never over. Ann Coulter, thanks for joining me here at the desk on Drudge. Always a pleasure to see you. Larry Klayman is coming to us from Washington, a familiar face to this network and to Washington. I know there's a few people now, Larry Klayman, wish you would just disappear, but you're not. And thanks for joining us. What have you filed since the last time we've talked? There's a new case afoot.
Matt, we filed the biggest case that we've ever filed, and it's going to get to the issue of whether satellite and missile technology was sold to the Chinese in exchange for campaign contributions. It's a derivative action. It concerns Loral Corporation, Bernie Schwartz. John Wong is a defendant in this case, so we're going to hear from John Wong, the Democratic National Committee, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton. It's a large case, but it gets down to what has been alleged to have been a pattern and practice, a RICO violation, a racketeering violation, of misusing taxpayer-financed resources to sell government services and perhaps to transfer technology that shouldn't have been transferred to the Chinese.
And it has been filed? It has been filed.
It was filed last Tuesday, and it basically makes superfluous what the Thompson Committee did and what the Burton Committee did. We're going to have an independent, non-political view to determine what happened here on behalf of two Loral shareholders.
Okay, hold the horse. We'll get right back into it. Matt Drudge here on Fox News. Right back with Larry Klayman. Back on Fox News, Matt Drudge here, continuing my conversation with Judicial Watch's Larry Klayman, who has been dubbed on the internet in some corners the People's Independent Counsel, for reasons that there's a group now who is starting to really believe Ken Starr has let them down. Larry Klayman, can you elaborate? Has Ken Starr let you down in his investigations?
Well, first of all, we're pursuing civil side of cases. We will prove, much like in the O.J. Simpson case, in our civil suits, that the president has committed impeachable offenses, and we will get justice. So Ken Starr hasn't let me down as much as he's let the American people down. And there was telling testimony that was elicited during the hearing. David Kendall asked the question, have you ever spoken with Monica Lewinsky or met her? The answer was no. Have you ever interviewed any of the witnesses? The answer was no. Bob Barr asked Ken Starr, did you call before the grand jury or interview Mac McLarty in the Filegate case? He was the White House chief of staff there during Filegate. The answer, I don't know. So the question is, here you have somebody who may have been very well-intentioned, Matt, but who wasn't hands-on, and his staff got away from him. He was looking at Lewinsky and other things and not looking at the important scandal.
I wonder if he saw this video we're about to show. I'm calling it a Drudge Greatest Hits. It's of William Kennedy, a former deputy White House counsel. Now, this is the FBI probe of the files that landed in the White House, which Starr, I guess, has cleared everything but Linda Tripp's file that they leaked to the New Yorker. But check this video out. This is William Kennedy when you ask him, were there Republican files unauthorized on that desk?
Sometimes you had the files of Republicans on that table, correct?
Only if they were properly in the clearance process. Mr. Klayman.
Sometimes you had the files of Republicans on that table, correct?
Only if they were properly in the clearance process.
I tell you, Larry Klayman, if you keep coming up with video like that, you're going to start changing some minds, because that is pretty damn telling from where I sit. To the chase here, what is your next mode of action? I know you've asked for people to support you in this crusade at Judicial Watch. What can people do at this point as citizens besides call their congressman and email them? That seems to be going nowhere at the current moment.
Well, that's fruitless, Matt. If the Republicans were serious, and certainly they're not, they wouldn't be shutting these hearings down on December 7th.
Why are they shutting them down?
They're shutting them down because they think it's politically inconvenient, as Ann was talking about earlier. But you know, the other aspect of this thing, Starr says that he's going to be able to go on and perhaps bring indictments, but having released all of this information, grand jury information on the public record, he'll never get indictments. So we look for people to support groups like ourselves. The American people can do it for themselves. They don't have to look to Congress. They don't have to look to Ken Starr. We did it in 1776. We threw the tea in the Boston Harbor. Now we can do it legally, and we can use the court system to get justice. You can't look to Congress for that.
Okay, very well put. Thanks for joining me, Larry Klayman of Judicial Watch. He's on the internet, judicialwatch.org. Please go visit him. And again, thanks for joining and keep us updated on
Matt.
this.
My pleasure.
Larry Klayman. Media year ender, anyone? Time magazine, the night of Clinton's deposition. A nice flashback here. The Paula Jones deposition had just ended, and Time magazine issues this press release. January 26, 1998. Quote, the president felt that the Paula Jones deposition had gone smashingly for him. Describing the mood Saturday night at the White House, one person close to the president said, everyone is going to sleep well tonight. Of course, we know that's not quite the full story. And would you have to be a Matt Drudge or a Rat Sludge to be in the comics these days? Hot off the ratings smash of 60 Minutes death video, Kevorkian. Here they go. This Sunday, Brenda Starr wants in on the action. Take a look at this. Rat Sludge is on the deathbed and somebody's trying to Kevork me. Mike Wallace, what have you started? Thanks for joining me on Fox News.
They didn't tell us.